just need to be acting a bit more reasonably, really.
I want to come back to that point later, but I do want to get at least these two questions because they've been waiting for ages. So let's go there and then down here. Okay? Go.
Mine's actually on the same vein, but I was just wondering, do you think that the really successful businesses top end, like obviously there's EA Spouse, but you know EA is a huge exception because it's like 20% of the Western industry or whatever. But something like Epic or something like that, do you think they face the same problems that the smaller studios and the independents face with, you know, staff getting unhappy and being, you know, worried halfway down the project? Do you think they face the same things, even though they're, you know, that huge and critically acclaimed?
Everywhere I've worked, there are incredibly unhappy people.
What's the common factor there, Andrei?
You absolutely cannot please everyone if you run a business. I've had 2 or 3 of them own developers, and there's always someone who's unhappy, always someone who's complaining. And the bigger it is, the more that the rumours get around, the more that there's the whispers in the corridors, and it just steamrolls. You know, everyone suffers from it, and they've done it. And obviously, forcing people to work long hours doesn't help. But I've not really ever experienced being forced to work long hours. I mean, it's not this horrendous, you know, endemic on the industry where everyone just works crazy hours and gets burned out. There's a few high-profile times when it's happened. I don't think it's something that's terrible as people might think it is.
We're all human beings. I mean, no matter what you're doing, you're gonna have your bad days. People are gonna get grizzled, get burned. I mean, I've got what I guess is pretty much a dream job. I've probably got the best job in the country. I want to swap places with anyone. Like, I love what I do. I love where I work. I love what we're working on. But I have my days where I just come in and slam the door and swear and carry on. I mean, it's tough. It's not easy to make games. I don't think it's necessarily, it might be harder for Epic to make the games that they make than it is for us to make the games that we make. I mean, and there are people there that have enormous burdens to shoulder and really, you know, tough things. But I think it's a question of, you know, what you're ultimately focused on as what your goal is, how you measure your own satisfaction. And I mean, in as much as, you know, someone who's got what you might consider a very lowly, difficult job might be, you know, walking around whistling on them to have quite a happy outlook some days. I think we all kind of level out to where we are, you know, and you have your good days and your bad. So I think, you know, if someone has a bad patch, even if they're working on what you might consider to be the most exciting project in the world, I mean, that, you know, there is going to be a certain level of discontent and grumpiness. And as I think it was Andrei was saying before, it only really takes, you know, 1 or 2 people to have that mentality, and it does spread. It's strange. It's like an illness that grows through a company. I think you have to actively take steps to kind of quarantine that when it happens, which doesn't mean turfing the person who's griping. I mean, there may well be a real and significant problem that you have to deal with that's brought that about, but sometimes, you know, separating people from one another for a little bit or putting someone on a different project or a different role can really work. And sometimes those things are irreconcilable when people do leave. But I very much doubt that even, you know, if you pick what your favourite best developer was, I doubt you walk in there, everything's, you know, moonbeams and lollipops. I'm sure that there's, you know, there's grouchiness everywhere.
There is also actually, sometimes it's quite definitely self-inflicted. Yeah, I mean, again, talking about Epic, I mean, I would personally imagine being an artist at Epic would be an incredibly high-pressure job. You know, there's arguably some of the most talented people in the industry currently working there. And you might come in there and think, shit, there's just no way I can't even draw, you know, that guy's nose, let alone his whole face, you know. And that could put you under a lot of stress, which is not money related and it's not crunch time related, it's just self-imposed, you know, it depends on your own standards. And if you think that, like David was saying when he started out, you know, that whole thing of, I don't deserve to be here, could be really, really bad for some people. And then, the problem there is that they'll imprint other things on why they're unhappy. They could be stressed about something which has got nothing to do with money, but they'll cotton on, I'm not getting paid enough for this. And they're just stressed because of other things, but they just think, well, if I'm going to be this stressed, I need more money or something. So it's not always, you know, the obvious thing that's causing people to be unhappy.
We have an artist working at AI who worked at EA Montreal, and they had a lot of people from various places like Valve and Blizzard and Epic working there, and they're all miserable. Not miserable, but they have the same problems. Like, I think that no matter how profile your game is, you're still gonna have, like everyone's saying, you're gonna have the same kind of concerns and issues, because, as David pointed out, people are people, I think. So you might be making Gears of Wars 2, but you've got Cliffy B on your back saying, because that's what he's like. He's actually a hand puppet. we're going to go here, and I'd really like to come back to the issue of kind of more adults in the industry. So can you hold your question until after that? Go.
I'm sorry, I've had this question for a while, but just let it happen. But I was just thinking about how a lot of, essentially a lot of Australian developers and stuff are doing a lot of licensed stuff. And I was just thinking, why is that? I mean, I'm not saying that nobody's got any good ideas or anything like that, but would it have to do with things like, is it their support given by the companies that are doing the licenses and stuff like that? Like, how much does it take to get a game going? How much money does it take to get a game going? Do the licenses, the people who are doing the licenses sponsor that and stuff like that?
I think all games cost about $2,000, like to make, but we just skim the rest for profit. So you can make a game for $2,000. That's not true.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the industry for most developers as publishers, like, it's we need them. They give us our living. You guys may have seen, I think it was last year, Phil Harrison basically said that Australia will never rise above making a licensed product. That was all we were good for, which I think was actually a good thing because it seems to have...
It pissed us off, which I think is actually really good.
Is that the actual quote? Because I heard a different quote from Phil.
Yeah, I think he sort of backtracked afterwards. That's how it came out originally.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the reasons I came here, because I feel that Australia's like, it's an emerging development market, and I think there's lots of great things that are going to happen here, and there is obviously plenty of talent. It's just it's not been exploited properly yet. But it's very hard when you're, when I was working at a publisher in England, and I can work with this developer in Cambridge, who I can go and see every single week, or I can work with someone who's literally 12 hours out of sync with me, who I might see once a year, if at all. And so it's difficult. It is difficult, and there's some very, very good people running the developers here who are managing to suck funds into this country. And I think it will change. I mean, we're working on original IP now, and I think more will come. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a few licensed products to keep people paid.
Yeah, I mean, I grizzle about licenses incessantly, but I don't think they're by any means all bad. I think as a company, you want to have this sort of ongoing stability, and the way you do that is by you suck a lot of publishers' teeth, basically. Like you're going for...
There's a theme, David. There's a theme.
I apologise. Freud or something to say.
And it wouldn't be good.
No. And so for you to say, all right, I'm going to set up a company, and we're going to do this awesome, rocket launcher with a monkey with the chainsaws.
Another thing.
And
copyright.
So you've got a few options. You can win the lottery, or you can try and talk a publisher into paying for it. And pro tip, they're not gonna. But what you can do is, as a company, is take on these licensed games. So that's what the work is. Like the publishers have this stable of properties, and they need to fill. It's quite marketing driven, really. So for a certain Christmas period, they want games and these franchises to come out at a certain time on a certain platform. And so you as a company can say, I want to then take this on. I'll give you this team, this and some bit of negotiation, how many people, how much time, how much money, that sort of thing. But what that allows you to do is to set up. You're able to keep a building with talented people in it. It allows you to develop a production process. It allows you to figure out how a better ways of doing this thing. So that when the time comes for you to do the rocket launcher chainsaw monkey game, then you're able to kind of move on that in a way that is somewhat a bit more predictable, a bit more planned out, a bit more stable, rather than necessarily throwing all your eggs in one. Because it's very glamorous to throw eggs in one basket, and you really want to kind of bet the farm on something you really believe in. But at the end of the day, what you're actually talking about is people being out of work and people's families having a difficult time and so on. So really, as far as the quality of life of the developer and building up the efficiencies and so on, working on licensed games is actually it's a good way of gaining that experience, gaining those skills, getting a reputation. You get to know the publishers, you develop a relationship with them. They are the gatekeepers. You get to know the platform holders and so on. So when it's time for you to step up to the plate with something that you really do believe in, you've got the systems, the talent, the process. That's all in place. So it's actually something that we butt our heads against a little bit, but it's actually a really important, powerful thing to have on your side too. So it's not. I think it'd be depressing if that was the height of your ambition as a company, was to do this sort of product. But to have that as a string to your bow is, I think, an excellent part of a sensible strategy.
And I mean, publishers are return on investment driven, so they'll do numbers on whatever it is, 10, 12 projects a year. They would be expecting